All right, so this is a key to the worksheet where you have to solve linear equations that contain decimals. Now, make sure you're reading the directions. The direction says that I want you to uh, change all these decimals to fractions and then multiply both sides by a factor of 10. All right, so that's the way you need to do this. Okay, so let's do number one. So number one, I have 7x minus, and then when students read this, they read it as 3.8 equal, and then 3x plus 2.1. But mathematically, this 3.8, when read correctly, is 3 and 8 tenths. And the same thing here, that's 2 and 1 tenths. All right. So the first thing you're going to do is going to rewrite each of those decimals as fractions. So I have 7x minus, and then 3 and 8 tenths is actually 38 tenths, right? And then equal, and then 3x plus, and then 2 and 1 tenth rather, is 21 tenths. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you think about it, you see this 3 and 8 tenths right here, 3 and 8 tenths as a mixed number. That's this, right? So 3 times, and then changing this to an improper fraction, 10 times 3 is 30, and then 30 plus 8 is 38. So notice you get 38 tenths. Okay? All right. So now I have a linear equation that contains fractions, and so we're going to multiply both sides by the LCD, and so that's this part here. So I want you to multiply both sides of the equation by a factor of 10. So in this case, since the LCD is 10, we're going to multiply both sides by 10. And so I have two fractions in this side, or two terms in this side, which you can consider 7x as a fraction, because I can write this as 7x divided by 1. So I have two terms here and then two terms here, right? So let's go ahead and multiply both sides by 10. All right, so you're going to write it like this. You're going to say times 10 and then times 10. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and distribute. So I get 10 times 7x minus, and then 10 times this fraction, 38 tenths, equal 10 times 3x, just like this, plus, and then 10 times 21 tenths. So distribute there. So remember, the whole point of multiplying both sides by the least common denominator is to get these fractions that you had here to be factors of ones. All right? And you're going to get this now, because watch. 10 times 7x is 70x, minus the 10's divide out here. So 1 times 38 is 38. So I get 70x minus 38 on the left-hand side. On the right side of our equation, 10 times 3x is 30x plus, and then these 10's divide out, and you get 1 times 21 is 21. So notice I went from a decimal equation to a fractional equation to an equation without any decimals or fractions. And so let's go ahead and subtract 30x from both sides. That's the easiest way to do this one. Combine like terms, get 70x minus 30x is 40x minus 38 equal, this is 0. 0 plus 21 is 21. Adding 38 to both sides and combining like terms, I get 40x. 40x, this is 0, equal 28 plus 31 is 59, right? And then dividing both sides by 40, because right now I'm multiplying by 40. The opposite is to divide by 40. 40 divided by 40 is 1. So I get x to be 59 divided by 40. Or, now it's not reducible, but I can write as a mixed number if I want to. So 40 goes into 59 one time with a remainder of 19. Let's get 1 and 19/40ths. All right, so that's number one. So it's not a difficult process, very easy to deal with. So let's get number two. Number two, as I write, I'm going to read out what it says. So this is what I have so far. All right, and so this reads as 64 hundredths, right? 64 hundredths equals 6 tenths times x plus 2 and 7 tenths. Okay? All right, now what I would do first is this. So notice that I have a decimal within parentheses here. So what I would do first is I would convert all of those decimals I see to fractions. So 64 hundredths is this fraction, 64 hundredths equal. 6/10 is this fraction, 6/10 times x plus, and then 2 7/10 is 27/10. All right. And then once I get to that point, then the next thing I would do is go ahead and distribute. And so I get 64 hundredths. Now don't reduce this, and don't reduce this, because remember, the whole point here is I need for you to multiply both sides by a factor of 10. So either you're going to multiply both sides by 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, and so on. All right, so don't reduce. Okay, equal 6/10 times x is 6/10 x plus. Now be careful here. So notice this right here is 6/10 times 27/10, right? So 6 times 27, 6 times 27, let's see, 7 times 6 is, what's that, 42? And then 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So I get 162, and then 10 times 10 is 100. So 162 divided by 100. All right. So I have 64 hundredths here, and then when I distribute here, I get 6/10 x plus, and then 27 times 6, we got to be 162 hundredths. And now I can find the LCD. So the LCD is 100. 10, 100, 10, and 100. The LCD is 100. So now I'm going to multiply both sides by 100, and now watch how easy it becomes. Notice, though, on this side I have two fractions. We'll put that in parentheses. So I got 64 hundredths equal, in parentheses, 6/10 x plus 162 divided by 100. Both sides has to be multiplied by the LCD. Now remember, the whole purpose of multiplying by the LCD is to clear those fractions that you see there. So let's go ahead and distribute on this side, and we'll leave this side alone for right now. So I have 100 times 64 hundredths equals, and then here I get 100 times 6/10 x plus 100 times 162 hundredths. Now let's go ahead and reduce. 100 divided by 100 is 1. 1 times 64 is 64, equal. 10 and 10 is 1, 10 and 100 is 10. 10 times 6 times x is 60x, plus these hundreds divide out, you're left with 162. All right, and then so now we're going to go ahead and notice that this is a linear equation. The variable term appears on one side, so let's go ahead and subtract 162 from both sides. And so 64 and a negative 162, so 162 minus 64, so that's going to be what? That's 2, what's that, 8? And then 6 from 15 is going to be 9, so that's 98. But it's a negative 98, right? Because 64 and a negative 162 is a negative 98. Equal, this is 0, and you're left with 60x. And so now we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 60 to get x by itself. And when I do that, I get x equal negative 98 divided by 60, right? Now notice both of these numbers here are even, so they're both divisible by 2. So we know that negative 98 divided by 2 is a negative 49, so you need to reduce it if possible. And we know that 60 divided by 2 is 30, right? And so there's the answer. And if you want to, you can write as a mixed number. So you could say Rx equal negative 30 goes in 49 one time with a remainder of 19. So I get negative 1 and 19 30ths. All right, so that was number 2. All right, let's look at number 3. So number 3, I have this equation for number 3. We have 0.05x minus 0.2 times x minus 3 equal negative 0.24. Mathematically, though, this reads as 5 hundredths. So that's 5 hundredths x minus, and this reads as 2/10. So 2/10 times x minus 3 equal, and this reads as a negative 24 hundredths, just like this. Now let's go ahead and distribute to make things a little easier for ourselves. So I get 5 hundredths x. Now remember, don't reduce because remember, at some point you want to multiply both sides by a factor of 10. So if you reduce, you no longer see that factor of 10. All right, so I get 2 tenths times x is a negative 2 tenths x here, and then a negative times a negative is a positive, right? So so notice what I have here. I have 2 tenths times 3, right? And then see this right here, 2 tenths times 3. 2 tenths times 3 is actually 6 tenths. 2 times 3 is 6. But a negative times a negative is a positive, so that's actually positive 6 tenths, equal, and then negative 24 hundredths. All right, and then now I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 100. Yeah, 100. So the LCD is 100, right? Okay, so I have those three terms on this. I'm put that in parentheses. 5 hundredths x minus 2 tenths x plus 6 tenths equal, and then negative 24 hundredths. Now be careful. Don't say 5x minus 2x is 3x. For one thing, those denominators are not the same. So those are not like terms in that sense. All right. So now these are like terms, I should say. I mean, they are like terms, but they're not that easy to combine because those denominators are different. All right. So let me change what I said. Those are like terms. But don't say 5x minus 2x is 3x, because that's not true, because the denominators are different. So to be on the safe side, just go ahead and multiply both sides by 100. Now let's go ahead and distribute. So 100 times 5 hundredths x minus 100 times 2 tenths x plus 100 times 6 tenths equals, and we're going to rewrite this, 100 times negative 24 hundredths. And now remember, the whole purpose of multiplying both sides by that LCD is to clear those fractions, to get those denominators to be factors of 1. And so 100 divided by 100 is 1, 100 divided by 100 is 1. 10 divided by 10 is 1, 100 divided by 10 is 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1, 100 divided by 10 is 10. These hundreds divide out. And so you see you get factors of 1s in all of their denominators. Now 1 times 5x is 5x minus 10 times 2 times x is 20x plus 10 times 6 is 60 equal, and then 1 times a negative 24 is a negative 24. And now notice, you see those like terms here? See, remember these were like terms, right? But the denominators were different, so it wasn't that easy to combine. Now they're easy to combine. Those two like terms here, 5x minus 20x is a negative 15x plus 60 equal negative 24. All right, so let's go ahead and subtract 60 from both sides. And so I get negative 15x, this is 0, equal a negative 24 and a negative 60 is a negative 84. And then dividing both sides by negative 15, I get negative 15 divided by negative 15 is 1. 1 times x is x equal. Now remember, you must know this. You must remember that a negative divided by negative is a positive. So make sure you write this as a positive 84/15. But you also need to know that I can reduce this because both of those are divisible by 3. So 3 into 84, 3 into 84, 3 goes into 8 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. And you get 24 here. 3 into 24 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. So that's 28, right? The numerator. The denominator, 5 divided by 3 is, 5 divided by 3 is 5, right? 15 divided by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And so I have this improper fraction. So x equal 28/5. If you want to, you can write as a mixed number. 5 goes into 28. What's that, 5 times? 5 times 5 is 25 with the remainder 3. So you get 5 and 3/5. So it'll be 5 and 3/5. All right, so that was number 3. All right, and finally number 4. Let's do number 4. Number 4, we have this equation. And we'll go ahead and just write it out first. And then we'll rewrite it as fractions. All right, so there's the equation you see. Okay, so wherever you see a decimal, you want to convert that to a fraction. So this 0.3 here mathematically means 3/10. So that's 3/10 times 4x minus 3 equal, and this is 28 hundredths, so that's 28 hundredths times 2x plus 5 minus, and this is 65 hundredths, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and distribute, and then we'll go ahead and multiply both sides by the LCD. So remember what you have here. So if you have to write it out on the side or something, then do that, because notice what you have here is 3/10 times 4x, right? So look, 3/10 times 4x. I can write 4x as 4x divided by 1. 3 times 4 is 12, so this is really 12x, right? So let me go ahead and write it out first. So I have 3/10 times 4x minus, and this is 3/10 times 3. So let's go and distribute first. But we know that this right here is 12x, right? 12x divided by 10. Over here, do the same thing. Distribute the 28 hundredths. So I get 28 hundredths times 2x. So this times this plus, and then 28 hundredths times 5. So 28 hundredths times 5 minus 65 hundredths. All right, now let's go ahead and multiply. 3 times 4 is 12. So this is 12x divided by 10. 12x divided by 10. Now again, don't reduce, because you want to leave them as factors of tens in the denominator. Minus 3 times 3 is 9, so that's 9/10 equal, and then 28 times 2 is 56. So that's 56x divided by 100 plus, and then 28 times 5, so we go and figure that out. 28 times 5, 8 times 5 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 140, right? So that's 140 divided by 100 minus 65 divided by 100. All right, so now I know the LCD. 10, 10, 100, 100, 100. So the LCD is 100. So I'm going to rewrite this and put each of those sides in parentheses. So 12x divided by 10 minus 9/10 equals 56x divided by 100 plus 140 divided by 100 minus 65 divided by 100 in parentheses, and we'll multiply both sides by 100. And now the next step is go ahead and distribute. So you're going to multiply each of those fractions by the LCD, which is 100. So meaning you're going to say 2 times this fraction, 100 times this fraction, just like this, minus, and then 100 times 9/10 equal, and then 100 times 56x over 100, and then 100 times this fraction, plus 100 times 140 divided by 100, and then minus 100 times this fraction. All right, now remember, the whole point of multiplying each of those by 100 by the LCD is to get those denominators to be factors of 1. Okay, so now let's go ahead and reduce. 10 and 10 is 1, 10 and 100 is 10. 10 and 10 is 1, 10 and 100 is 10. 100 divided by 100 is 1, 100 divided by 100 is 1. Same thing here, those divide out, and these divide out. Okay, so what I have now is 10 times 12x is 120x, minus 10 times 9 is 90, equal 1 times 56x is 56x, plus 1 times 140 is 140, minus, and then 1 times 65 is 65. All right, now let's go ahead and combine like terms on this side. So on this side, I don't have any like terms, so I'm going to rewrite it as 120x minus 90 equal, and before I go on, notice I went from a decimal equation to a fractional equation to an equation without any fractions or decimals. All right, I have 56x, so 56x, 140 minus 65, right? So 140 minus 65 will give us 75. All right, let's go ahead and subtract 56x from both sides. And at that point, I'm just going to go ahead and use the calculator to figure out what 120 minus 56 is. So 120 minus 56 using the calculator is going to give us 64. So I have 64x here minus 90 equal, this is 0, and 75. Adding 90 to both sides, I get 64x equal, and then 75 plus 90 will be 165. And then to get x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 64. And then that's going to be 165 divided by 64. And then you can, it's not reducible, so you can leave the answer like this, or if you want to write it as a mixed number, you can. So 64 into 165, that'll be what, 2 times? So it'll be 8 and 128, right? So it'll be 2. 2 times 64 is 128. Subtract, let's see, 8 from 15 is 7. 2 from 5 is 3. And so you get 2 and 37 divided by 64. So 2 and 37 divided by 64. All right. And so that is the key to this worksheet. And that's how you have to do it. So always follow directions. Always follow directions whenever you're working a problem. All right. So that's the key.